McDonald's isn't just fast food, it's comfort, memory, and marketing brilliance wrapped up in a paper bag. In this episode, we explore how a simple guilty pleasure became a global obsession. From unforgettable products to cultural moments that shaped generations, this is the story of how McDonald's didn't just sell food, it sold familiarity. This season takes a TV first look at the marketing, psychology, and nostalgia behind one of the most iconic brands in history. Settle in. This is the intersection of where comfort food and comfort watching meet. There are very few things in the modern world that don't need translation. A red light, a hospital sign, a restroom symbol, and somewhere along the way, two golden arches join that list. You don't need to speak the language. You don't need to know the currency. You don't even need to be hungry. You already know what it is. That kind of recognition isn't accidental, and it isn't about food. It's about familiarity. This is the story of how McDonald's didn't just sell burgers. It sold reassurance, repetition, and routine until it became part of the global landscape. Before the logos, before the jingles, before the billion-dollar real estate empire, there was a problem. In the 1940s, American drive-ins were chaotic places. Long menus, car hops, slow service, inconsistent food. Customers waited. Orders varied. Mistakes were common. Two brothers in San Bernardino, California, Richard and Maurice McDonald, didn't want to reinvent food. They wanted to remove friction, so they did something radical for the time. They closed their restaurant, scrapped most of the menu, and rebuilt the kitchen like a factory floor. Burgers, fries, milkshakes, nothing more. Each worker had one task. Every motion was planned. Every second mattered. They called it the speedy service system. What they created wasn't a better burger. It was a better process. The brilliance of the speedy service system wasn't speed alone. It was predictability. A customer didn't just get food faster. They got the same food, the same way, every single time. No customization, no surprises. At a time when dining out was uncertain, McDonald's became dependable. That dependability did something powerful. It trained customers. They learned what to expect before they arrived. They trusted the outcome. And trust, once established, spreads. Not because it's exciting, but because it's safe. That was the foundation of everything that followed. By the time McDonald's began spreading beyond a single restaurant, something unusual had already happened. Customers weren't choosing it because it was exciting. They were choosing it because it was predictable. That pattern appears again and again in global brands that endure. Before scale, before dominance, before controversy, first comes trust through sameness. McDonald's didn't train people to crave novelty. It trained them to expect outcomes. And once expectation is set, behavior follows quietly. The brothers were content. One restaurant, a handful of licensed locations, control intact. But systems attract attention. And one visitor didn't see a restaurant. He saw multiplication. Ray Kroc didn't invent McDonald's. He recognized what it could become. Where the brothers saw consistency, Kroc saw replication. Where they saw quality control, he saw scale. Franchising wasn't new, but no one had applied it to a system this precise. McDonald's didn't franchise creativity, it franchised certainty. Every restaurant would look the same, operate the same, feel the same. That sameness would become the brand. As McDonald's spread across America, something subtle happened. The brand stopped advertising food and started advertising feeling. Clean lines, bright colors, simple architecture visible from the road. Golden arches weren't the decoration, they were landmarks. Television ads didn't sell novelty, they sold reassurance. McDonald's was there. It would always be there, and it would always be the same. In an era of rapid social change, that mattered. The food wasn't aspirational. The reliability was. By the 1960s, McDonald's was no longer growing like a restaurant chain. It was growing like a system of memory. Advertising didn't push persuasion, it reinforced recognition. Architecture didn't compete for attention, it anchored location. Menus didn't invite exploration, they removed decision-making. This is where the story shifts, because McDonald's wasn't building desire, it was building permission. Permission to return, permission to trust, permission to choose without thinking. That distinction explains why growth accelerated without resistance. People didn't feel sold to, they felt settled. Then came the masterstroke. McDonald's didn't market to adults. It marketed to memory. Ronald McDonald, bright interiors, playful language, birthday parties. McDonald's didn't just feed families. It inserted itself into childhood. And childhood is sticky. When people grow up, they don't just remember taste, they remember moments. A reward after school, a road trip stop, a familiar place in an unfamiliar world. By the time customers could choose freely, the choice felt pre-made. By the 1970s, McDonald's wasn't competing, it was defining the category. Fast food didn't mean quick meals, it meant McDonald's. The system worked, perhaps too well. Restaurants multiplied, processes tightened, variations disappeared. The brand became almost invisible through repetition. And invisibility is powerful. When something feels inevitable, it stops being questioned. But scale changes things. What works perfectly at 100 locations behaves differently at 10,000. Speed remained, consistency remained, but something else emerged. Competitors didn't try to out McDonald's. They contrasted it. Flame-grilled, fresh, customizable. McDonald's wasn't failing, but the conversation was shifting, and the system that once felt modern began to feel fixed. As tastes evolved, McDonald's tried to follow. Healthier options, expanded menus, new identities layered on top of old ones. But familiarity has limits. When a brand tries to be everything, it risks becoming nothing specific. Marketing became louder, messaging more complex. The arches were still there, but the certainty they once promised began to blur. Global expansion continued. McDonald's entered new countries, new cultures, new expectations. But the core question lingered. Was McDonald's a meal? A memory? A system? A symbol? The brand had scale. What it struggled with was meaning. Here's what becomes clear in hindsight. McDonald's didn't rise because it won arguments. It rose because it removed friction. The fewer decisions people have to make, the more likely they are to repeat behavior. Habit becomes identity. Identity becomes defense. That's when brands stop competing on features and start competing on emotional real estate. McDonald's didn't rise because it was beloved. It rose because it was dependable. It didn't win with innovation alone. It won with repetition. Over decades, familiarity becomes habit. Habit becomes comfort. Comfort becomes loyalty. And loyalty, once embedded, is hard to displace. But it comes at a price, because the same system that builds dominance can also resist change. The world sees a restaurant, but behind it is something else entirely, a belief that consistency could conquer distance, that familiarity could scale endlessly, that systems could replace spontaneity, and standing just behind that belief was a man who didn't ask whether it should grow, only how far it could go. That question, how far, is where this story turns, because familiarity can build trust, but ambition decides what happens next. Next episode, we meet the force that took a working system and pushed it beyond containment. We don't look at the brand, we look at the ambition that reshaped it.